training partners. Here come your training partners. So smart, so strong, so funny. Let's go with your training partners. We're ready.
Usually, we've been starting these with Wheezy and I bullshitting for 5 minutes. And then,
You don't get to bullshit alone.
yeah, I didn't think that was going to work. I suspected that wasn't going to work. Therefore, we're definitely leaving this in. Wheezy, do you want to take us away?
Welcome to Training Partners, where two fitness professionals bring you strong takes held loosely. I am Wheezy Shoemaker, and today I'm joined by Justin McClintock and our very first guest, Allie Gerber. And today we'll be bringing you some strong takes, but first we have to shoot the shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were just talking about like what actually makes an entrepreneur and whether it counts and all that goes into that. I think we should just continue there.
Dude.
You've been doing some entrepreneurial stuff today.
I have been doing some entrepreneurial stuff today. I toured 5 prospective locations for Sustained.
Any of them winners?
None of them are perfect, which, what are you going to do?
That's an entrepreneurial thing to deal with too. It's, can I make this thing that's not perfect because my vision is different? Can I make it work and be okay enough and good enough?
Right. What's good enough? Mm-hmm. So there are 3 that are good enough.
Okay.
And I am proposing my favorite of the good enough, and then have contingent terms for, hey, if they come back quickly and say nothing, or if they ghost us, which has happened now twice.
Right.
Then you have my explicit approval to propose at these other places. So
I will tell you that the ghosting from commercial landlords is not something I have told clients this over and over. Do not take it personally. It is a trend that has been happening a lot because people are like, what? I guess I didn't do X, Y, or Z. And I'm like, I have a couple commercial landlords, and even they are like, it's weird because we're hearing from a lot of people that some of these bigger firms or even kind of these one-off mom and pop landlords are just, so I don't know what the game plan is, but I hope that they get back to you quickly and that all happens as it's supposed to.
Thank you. That's so sweet. Wow. Justin's never that supportive.
No, that's not my job. I have a different role here.
Heckler in chief.
Yeah, something like that.
Justin, what's going on in your world?
Well, so the past couple of months, I had an agency who was helping me with social media stuff, and it was okay. Allie had opinions also.
I have called him out. I've been like, Justin, this is so antithetical to how you present yourself. My husband has worked out with Justin and still continues to be programmed from him from afar. My son was trained by Justin and still talks about how much like things that Justin taught him. And I was like, the stuff that is in here is so weird. And also like, kind of, it's just not you. Like, what are you posting? And I'll call anyone out. I don't care how much I like you, how much my family likes you. If you're doing something that's sus or seems weird, I'm gonna be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, first of all, I appreciate that. And I think that's maybe a separate tangent of like small business owners being really supportive, and a lot of times being really supportive is stepping in and being like, hey, what the fuck are you doing, man? Because this is, you were here. They came with like this great proposal and all this thing, and we'll get you these followers and get you this engagement. And I am newly 100% online and sort of said, actually, that's in budget. Let's give it a shot. Because I'll kind of try anything. And it really wasn't a fit, and it really wasn't authentic. And a couple things slipped through that were way just like wrong, just like lies. Just like, they took someone else's content and kind of redid it a little bit and judged it, but said things I would never say because they're not true. And so
it definitely felt like RFK Jr.'s brainworm wrote the one that I called you out about. I was like, this is so weird. But one of our favorite people, another client that I introduced you to, Justin, Hillary Young, creative, she talks about this a lot, about how it's hard because when you come up with branding and then you have to pivot because you were in person in Philadelphia and now you are somewhere else and you're like, okay, I'm going to make this go online. I'm going to do these this whole other part of my business and really make that the main focus. And so it is trying to figure out like what feels authentic. Oh, this person or this company is telling me they can do that. And then it's sometimes trial by error, and it can be really frustrating because you've spent money on it and you have to be like, what would make you think? But that's kind of where we are in the world.
Well, I canceled it, and they tried several times to make me not cancel it. They cut the price in half, and then this morning I thought, we're so sorry. Our guy was sick. We accidentally charged you for next month already. However, we're going to give you 2 months and a free virtual assistant who's going to cold DM for you all day, and like all of these, like, and they were trying to value add, and the whole list was expensive, and none of it was stuff I want. It's like, no, I don't want someone who obviously doesn't understand my brand well enough, and that entirely could be my fault not communicating well enough. But we aren't aligned. I don't want them talking to my people. Like, you're going to chase people away or get the wrong people in. Someone's going to show up expecting a $19 a month program and be really bummed out. So at long last, I have gotten a refund and we're moving on.
I do think. Oh, sorry.
I've wondered. Thank you. I've wondered what's going on with your social media.
Yeah,
and so,
I apologize.
Yeah. I knew it was bad. My husband recently started following you. You know this.
Yeah.
And he last night said, "Is Justin only training bros now?"
No, and he's like the anti-bro.
Devastating.
Like, I think Justin could cosplay as a bro based on how he looks, but having dealt with Justin for years, and like, I mean, Allie, I have the most important question. It's about my scooter. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, this is, and I'm like, how much was.
Never going to let that go.
No, never. I want to brand my scooter. So like, that is the most anti-bro thing. But I think it also goes to show that, and this is something I tell people too, is that in any business that is out there, any sector of business, any service, anything that you can provide, there are always going to be these kind of like chop shops that kind of like pop up or try to jump on and get people's money, and they try to do it for as cheaply as possible. And like, I'm sure both of you see that in the fitness world, just because like I had texted Justin over the weekend. I was at the gym and I heard another. Listen, I am just beginning my fitness journey as a perimenopausal woman trying to figure it out. I found a really wonderful trainer who is so thoughtful and has really helped me rethink my goals and what I want from things. But I know bad advice and like unsafe advice when I hear it. And I texted Justin. I was like, this is what this guy's saying. He's like, oh no, that's really bad. So it was like dangerous too, which I'm sure you guys.
Can we get an example?
Yes. So this young guy, and I'm from Northeast Philly. So I will start this out where what initially perked my ear is in Philly, we have something called hoagie mouth, where it sounds like this. And if you get me angry or intoxicated or around my two best friends, Jess or Vanessa, we kind of slip into it because we're all from Northeast Philly. And so,
as someone who's gotten Allie angry, I can confirm this.
Yes. And so he was talking to this woman. She was probably in her mid to late 50s, and she had sustained some sort of injury moving her daughter across the country back from college, and she hurt herself, and it sounded like she hurt her back. And he was like, she went to her doctor, and her doctor said, I really recommend physical therapy. And she's trying this to him, and he goes, you know what you should do? He goes, why don't you go to the physical therapist? Just go to one, write down what they're going to do, and I'll do it for you. And she was like, okay, I can do that. And I wanted to be like, no, don't do that. Like, I know physical therapy, and they're trained in this, and you can seriously injure yourself. But this guy is very young. Like, he seems to be like early 20s. And so maybe I don't know if he's just starting out, but it was like not good advice. And then he was having her do a couple movements, and she was like, this is causing me a lot of pain. And it wasn't like I know like the look on my face when I am like trying to get through that last rep, or something feels a little different, and I'll ask the question, hey, is it supposed to feel like this? or is this just working a new muscle versus when there's physical pain? And she looked like she was in pain. And he goes, now we know, but just keep pushing through it. And like, you can do really bad damage to yourself, as you both, I'm sure, have seen bad programming, people who just don't, who are so focused on, I have to get this person because I have to make this money, which I do understand, but it can be dangerous.
Yep. New people doing crazy stuff is a constant problem and sort of leads into the whole, like, what does it take to become a personal trainer? Turns out you can just say, I'm a personal trainer. And that is actually enough in most places.
Right.
Is there no licensing for it?
No. So there's lots and lots of different certifications.
Okay.
Some are sort of standardized. There's NASM is a big one. ISSA is another one. What's the one I always forget, Wheezy? Is it CSCS? The one that's kind of collegey, more collegey?
Yeah.
But so like often like a Equinox will often require you to have NASM. So it's kind of recognized. It's fine. It's not a great course by any means. It's really, really basic, but none of it is licensed, and there's no continuity through the industry. So it remains the wild, wild west, which has some advantages because people like us can just do all kinds of great stuff and still call it personal training, even though we're doing mindset work and things around pain and dysfunction and stuff like that. But it is, there is no regulation. Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, I think it's an absolute travesty that it's unregulated. And I also don't know how you do it within the confines of how it's currently set up.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually what happens is there has to be some sort of horrific tragedy or scandal, unfortunately. And there's been lots of little things going wrong. Something huge has to go wrong, or a bunch of funding has to show up, which I don't think in the current environment is likely to happen. Helping people exercise and like making that, if that was a thing, if everyone got their personal trainer budget every year as part of their universal health care, I bet there would be a standard for what those trainers would have to have, good, bad, or otherwise. They would be something. And a bunch of us would probably have to go take a weekend course somewhere.
Right. That's exactly what a colleague of mine who was onboarding at a corporate gym needed to do. Was, she had like a CrossFit level 1 and needed to get some other certification. And so she blocked out 4 hours on the weekend to go and do it. And then she's qualified to work with clients. Like, I mean, my personal experience with NASM, which is the CPT I have, was that it's a whole lot of words that don't equip you at all to actually training people.
But you know what medial means, so you're good.
Right.
Listen, it's the same in the accounting world. I've been doing this for a long time, and there are different licensure, there's different things that you can get. I think the hardest thing that I come across, which is kind of similar, like someone takes a small training course through, I don't want to say names of stuff because I don't know if I would get anyone in trouble, but there's a very big accounting software company that everyone uses, and I even use, and I've used for all 24 years I've been doing this. My first tax season was in 2002, and it is now 2025. So it's been many, many a year. And they have this training course, and people will come to me and be like, oh, don't worry, I know all about this because I took this training course over a weekend. I spent $1,000 on it. And the problem is all it did was teach you to input data. It didn't teach you any of the background. And it's similar when I talk to new accounting grads, because they're like, well, no one told us. Part of it is not only just how to even prepare a tax return, it's how to deal with clients themselves and how to package information that we know to be very scary, because the way that the United States deals with taxes is, we know that the IRS is very scary. You're not meant to understand it. They're the boogeyman. And if you do one thing wrong, they're going to abscond away with you in the middle of the night. And that's not what happens. But I have a neuroscientist as a client, and she was telling me that they've actually done studies where when they figure out what turns the parts of your brain that retain information off, they actually use talk about the IRS and taxes, and it shuts down that part of your brain that then transfers the information over. So people go, I can't understand it, I'm too stupid or whatever, but it's a similar thing. So when people feel like they have a little control over it, they're like, oh, I have it all. And you're like, no, 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 no. Like, I get it. Like, our tax system is super, super weird and very convoluted, and it's meant to be that way. So that way, kind of your average Joe can't take advantage of certain things. But sometimes there's nothing for you to take advantage of. It's just what it is. So I'm sure you guys deal with that in terms of, sure, you can they'll tell you what fascia is or whatever. Like, that's the only word I can fucking think of off the top of my head that even relates to it. But it doesn't tell you how to deal with someone who like has deep-seated body issues from coming up through diet culture in the 2000s, and it was like, eat 1,200 calories a day. When I told Justin that's what I used to do and I felt like I should go back to that, the look on his face was like, oh my God, please don't do that. And then I wound up engaging with another one of your colleagues who actually then turned into a client, and she was so helpful in terms of me rethinking what I needed in terms of fuel. But it's all the same thing. Sometimes you just need someone who not only knows the work itself and how to do whatever you're trying to get them to do, but also like how to talk to people, which I'm sure is probably 95% of what you guys do all day, every day, is just making people listen to you. And like, I understand you're uncomfortable. You're telling yourself you can't do this thing, but you actually can, and let's do it. And my son, actually, we were walking through the park so I could drop him off at camp, and we were talking about doing box jumps. And I was saying how I still I can do like the 12-inch ones, but I can't make myself do the 18-inch ones because something in me tells me. And my son Ben was like, you remember what Justin told me when I thought I couldn't do it? And this is what you have to tell yourself. And you just have to know that you can, and it's okay to fall those first couple times, but then your body's going to let you do it and your mind's not going to stop you. And I was like, oh, Justin would be so proud right now. I'm definitely going to bring this out to the podcast. And he's not even 10. And we're so glad that we still have him training and things like that. But that's probably a lot of what you guys do all day, every day with clients.
It is overwhelmingly communication. Like what you're describing on sort of our side of the table is, yes, you need to be a really good technician. You need to know the stuff. You need to know the words. You need to understand how the stuff goes together. That just gets you through the door. Being any good at it is being able to ask questions and then listen a lot, and then ask another question and then listen a lot and do something with that information, as opposed to just zoning it out. And I've seen so many trainers just like, I'm watching information bounce off their face as a client talks to them, and they stick to whatever plan A was. Like, the person just told you their shoulder hurts. Why are they doing, my shoulder hurts a lot? Okay, jump on the pull-up bar. I'm confused. I feel like these things don't go together.
I think that kind of sums up much of entrepreneurial endeavors, which is you need to be good at the thing that you're trying to do. And then you also need to be able to apply that to imperfect beings, like in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do it? And then can you do it on a moving target?
And I feel like this sort of different ways of approaching thing kind of leads us into what was ostensibly the inspiration for getting together today. And that is, Wheezy and I, get along most of the time kind of well enough. And we sort of do the same thing, but we're actually at this point in time doing kind of opposite ends of the spectrum in the industry. I am newly 100% online. I don't train anybody in person. I don't do live sessions over. It is, I send you programming, you do it. I give you feedback, video analysis, adjustment going forward. Wheezy is now on the precipice of opening a brick and mortar and hiring people and doing all of that stuff. It's about as far apart as you could get kind of industry wise, and yet we kind of do the same thing. I feel like you have questions here, Wheezy.
I do have questions, and I'm so glad that you're here today with us, Allie, because this is just perfect resonant timing.
And he emailed me back when I didn't hear from you. I was like, hey, I'm going to do a check-in and see, because Q2 just happened. So I like to prod. I have my nag list, I call it. But I just want to say one thing before we get into it. Justin, I do want you to tell me at some point how it feels, because having been able to work with you and having my, family train with you, I feel like you get a lot of energy and a lot of like your life force from being face to face with people, and you are happiest being with people. So how does it feel now to be online? Because besides your wonderful wife, Rebecca, who is there with you, I'm wondering, is she the focus of all of your like people meeting energy? Bless you.
Yes, I do miss. I mean, I like training people in person. I like that part of my job. Whenever a number of coaches have congratulated me and going online 100%. And I've said some parts of it are very nice. Like the scheduling is much easier. I wake up when I want to wake up as opposed to at 4 a.m. to make sure I get ahead of things. But I do miss that in-person energy. And I also feel like it always informed my online work because the feedback is so much faster in person.
Yeah.
I do miss it, but this is a different kind of nice so far. We'll see. I do need to I'm gonna have to force myself to like get social and make friends or something because I don't know anybody or see people.
We are in different worlds at this point because I think I'm about as busy in person as I possibly could be. And my online business is full as well. And I need to hire both somebody in person to start to support those clients and transition into like running some small group sessions, and hire somebody to support additional remote clients, because at this point I have 3 calls on my roster that I have literally nowhere to put them, which is a problem. It's a good problem, but it's a problem.
So what's your move?
That's a great question. I have 2 candidates that I'm not ready to announce publicly. But one is potentially interested in relocating to Columbus, Ohio, which is incredible, to work at a gym that doesn't exist yet. So great. And then another well-aligned who is ready to start supporting clients remotely. And that will be a much quicker, like, plug and play. I actually just sold a client for her an hour ago. So
That makes me go into the thing. Then while I do mainly accounting work, and what I mean by that is tax prep, tax services in terms of helping you figure out what things happen throughout the year and how they may affect your taxes, and doing the back end accounting of doing bookkeeping and controller work and that kind of, not CFO, because I wouldn't put myself on that level. That's not really what I do, but that fractional controller work for people who maybe have that need, but have some of the need, but don't have either the budget or actually enough work to have someone come on full time. So they come on with us, just trying to navigate their opening a business, and they're trying to figure out how they do that and wherever they are and what the regulations and what they need to do. The number one thing I tell people is that the first person you engage with to help you on your journey of starting a business, switching your business, should not be your be all end all. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a financial advisor. I know enough about how to start a business and what that means and things for you to consider. But as soon as we come up to a contract, an employment contract, I cannot tell you how many times HR, insurance, accounting, legal, those are things that people go, maybe I'll do it later. And then something winds up coming up, they're working and everything is great. And then there's a bump in the road and that person goes, actually, peace out. Oh, and I'm taking your client list, and you have no recourse because you've set nothing up. And so I will tell people all the time, find a good general business attorney who can help you with client contracts. And I tell people this based on my experience of, I started doing this in 2002 because my grandfather was an accountant, and you kind of got conscripted into the family business, but he was my person and he was my main parental figure. And he and I were very much alike, and we were super close. And he made a promise to my late mother when she had me when she was a teenager. She was 17 when she had me. And he said, if you do this, I will be there to support Allie, or the baby. I mean, I wasn't Allie yet, as much as she needs. And he did that. But he also gave me the tools to support myself because I've been legally emancipated since I was 16. So, once I turned 18, I was financially on my own. And that really was what it was. I took too much of what he did, which was a lot of handshake deals. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not kind of walking the walk that I I talk the talk to my clients, but I'm not doing those things and I'm not protecting myself. And it took me getting screwed over in some really big ways for me to be like, okay, I'm now going to go to my attorney and I'm going to get engagement letters and everyone is going to sign an engagement letter, which you both know. And that's going to clearly state everything out and we're going to document the shit out of everything. And I think it's very similar now that you're hiring people. Sure, getting a payroll company that you really like set up, that can happen within a couple days. But when you bring someone into your business, it is really it's a very personal thing and it makes you very vulnerable, whether you realize it or not, because you're giving them access to how you do things, your client list, all these things that make people want to come to you for that service. So you have to make sure that you're protecting that because you're responsible for a livelihood and you have a family. And when you start getting employees, you're responsible for their livelihoods too, which can feel like it is an awesome honor and it's a great burden. But you do if you protect yourself. And the number one thing I hear is, I don't want to make someone uncomfortable, make them think I don't trust them. But I wouldn't trust working with someone who wouldn't want to put those things in place to not only protect themselves, but also protect me. So that way we're all on the same page and everyone knows where they stand. And that way I know the parameters of how I can work with them and how they will work with me, which I think is important.
Right. I think for the places where there's kind of a either explicit or implicit statement of, well, we're a family here, we don't need to do that. Like, no, fuck off.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No, I don't take you seriously if that's the only approach, especially when it's my livelihood, either as the business owner or as an employee. I had the
Right.
last time I had, one of the last bosses I had brought a contract for me to sign because things were changing and there was something in it. I was like, oh, this, you probably didn't mean to put this in here, but this doesn't make sense. I can't sign this. Like, oh, okay, I'll fix it. Never happened. Never signed a contract. I was without a contract for like a year and things kept getting worse and worse. And I was like, yeah, I knew. I didn't think you were serious. That's when things started getting a lot less serious around here.
Yeah.
So to that point, Allie, if there are people listening to this, and I'm one of the people listening to this, what would you advise as somebody is embarking on a new venture, whether it's a brick and mortar or starting a new business, like, and ultimately knowing you need to stay in your lane too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first things is like, I will give you an example. I had a gentleman talk to me yesterday. He actually is a fitness professional and a coach. And he was like, I already did all these things and I already have all it set up. And it turns out he only had set up things part of the way and he hadn't thought about the ramifications of how he set up that business. So first and foremost, I like people to think about, okay, I want to venture out on my own. It is going to be a brick and mortar, a retail space, a service. I'm going to work out of my home. Okay. If I look at the type of service or the type of service I'm going to provide in the business that I transact, how much liability am I going to encounter by doing that? So then if it's a fair amount of liability and I'm noticing that everyone who does what I do has an LLC or is a professional corp or a corp, okay, I want to look into, what does it mean to be an LLC? What does it mean to be an S corp? What does it mean to be a C corp? Okay, so do I understand what I need to do in order to maintain all the requirements of keeping that business? So for like an LLC, you're going to set up a separate bank account. You are going to get professional liability insurance and whatever other insurance you might need. You're then going to make sure that every time you get paid and every time you enter into a contract, it is not going to be in your personal name. You're going to upkeep what we call the corporate veil. So that way people can't come through. And then you're going to say, great, now that I do all this, I'm then going to go to an attorney if I need to make sure that I have my bylaws or I have my operating agreements. I have that all lined up. I'm not just going to go online and print something out and hope that it works enough, because we don't know if that even covers the state I'm in. So there's that.
Do not let ChatGPT write your legal documents.
And also, people love going to LegalZoom and they love setting up businesses, but LegalZoom actually has a class action lawsuit against it because of the the kind of predatory tactics that they take in terms of like making you do certain things, saying that yes, you'll let them charge you in perpetuity for nothing when they don't, in fact, they aren't filing the things that they need to in order to upkeep your business in the state you're in. And so a lot of times, while like, yes, I can help people set up, get their EIN, register with the state, get a corporate black book if they need one, and a corporate seal and all that stuff. What I do wind up telling people, especially if they are in specific, like industries, I say you need to make sure that this is okay with an attorney, because here are the things that I think, but I don't know enough about it. And that's my instant. And it took me getting my ego kind of beat out of me doing this all on my own since 2018, that I need to then make sure that people know to pull in the professionals, because I want them to be supported. I can be the person who recommends others to them. And then once you've kind of figured out, okay, I figured out what type of entity I want to be and what's best for me. I've engaged with an attorney, so I make sure that I have everything set up in terms of any operating agreement, bylaws, whatever I need. And then it's the next part, which is I am going to set up kind of rules and procedures for myself for every time I bring on a client, anytime I start work, and what do you need to support that? And then also I have to figure out, shit, how do I pay taxes? How do I make sure that I'm okay? So when I go to someone at the end of the year, I'm not getting punched in the face with a large tax liability. Or I might be thinking to myself, the number one thing that I get all the time from people, and this happens at least 50 times every year, is someone comes to me, they are sole member LLC or they are sole proprietorship, and they say, I don't have to pay any taxes this year because I've taken no money from my business. And what I say is, oh no. And so I kind of do this. I always take a deep breath and I say, I'm so sorry that there was confusion about this. I know that there's a lot of misinformation online about this. However, your taxability of income is in this case not based on you taking it. It is based on you earning it. So actually, you have $50,000 of net profit to be taxed on, or $100,000. And then I have to explain the different ways, like not only federal income tax, but self-employment tax and state, and then the local and the mercantile and the business tax and everything that goes into it. And all of a sudden they owe all this money that they didn't even realize. Because there are a lot of business coaches and a lot of people who are like, I'm going to tell you how to not pay any taxes. And people send me things all the time. One woman who I don't know how she found me. She's not a client. She just asked for recommendations. She was going through, she needed an estate and trust attorney, and I don't do estate and trust work because it's very specific. So I said, hey, I have some really good attorneys that I think would be really great for you. I hope they work out. And I hadn't heard from her in like 2 years. And then she messaged me and said, you're the one accountant that I trust, which is funny because I've only ever given her recommendations. I've never done any work for her. Can you tell me if this is true? And it was a guy who was a business coach who was saying, and it was like 10 weeks old. People were like, this is great. I'm not going to have to pay any taxes. The IRS is being shut down. And I had to be like, so all of this information is not correct. Most of the things that this person is regurgitating actually aren't even in the newest version of what's on the Senate floor right now. And the IRS will never cease to exist because its main job is to make people pay taxes. And who pays the largest amount of taxes in this country? It is people who are not ultra or even super or even somewhat wealthy, and they do not have access to the resources that people get in order to kind of take advantage of all these like crazy tax loops. So they're still going to have to pay those taxes, and you still need taxes to make the country run. So it doesn't matter what bullshit comes out of our administration or what other like nonsense. That's not what's actually being pushed here. And she was like, and this person is really smart. I don't think that they're stupid. I don't think that they are. I don't think badly of anyone who comes across that, very honestly, because it sounds like, yeah, that's what he's been saying. And that's what the administration's been saying. So obviously this recognize it. But unless you feel comfortable enough to engage with the actual, bill itself, and I keep up with it based on like, I subscribe to Accounting Today and the Journal of Accountancy, and I have
Sexy.
It's it's so sexy. A lot of it is, here's the wild shit that's happening. Here's all the people that they're firing. And oh, hey, accountants, I know you're under tremendous mental strain. Don't kill yourself. That's literally what the 3 sections are every morning. Every morning. It is like, we need you. There's not
The
enough
last
of
one's like
you.
a cross stitch, right? Like,
Don't
hang
kill
in there,
yourself.
buddy.
And you're like, I know, it's like the cat. It's like
Yeah.
hang in. And then I have a couple people that I engage with who they're tax attorneys mostly, who actually they're bipartisan members of the committees that the tax portion of bills go through. And so they literally sit in and get those first drafts, and I pay for them to basically say, here's what may be coming up, kind of like quick in layman's terms. So that way I can be like, oh, I have to then tell clients this, or, oh, I have to be aware of X, Y, or Z. So, and then after you do all of that, and then you make sure that you're insured properly and you have everything and you know exactly what you have to do, then you have to keep up with that. And you have to not take shortcuts that are sometimes we think, oh, that doesn't really matter, until those snowball, because you want to keep things as protective of yourself as possible when you're starting a business. And, there's a certain amount of risk with starting any business. And so once you do all that, and then you have to actually go do the work and upkeep all those things all the time. So it's a lot. I don't think that even the easiest money making businesses in terms of that are never easy, because there's always things behind it that people don't see. So I think it's about being prepared about, you have to set up all these things, do all these things, and then keep doing those things in perpetuity until you are done doing that business, or, you close it down.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Well, I have terrible news for what you're signing up for.
It is forever.
Yeah. Yes, that's a part of it.
I have an every day, every week, first of the month list that is always there. And it's partly just that, just making sure that I don't forget to resolve my books every Monday and forget to pay myself at the first of the month and all of that stuff.
And listen, it's kind of like the cobbler's kid who has no shoes. Like, I'm a month and a half behind on me doing my company's bookkeeping. I have a good sense and I check things every day, but that's actually on my list for Friday. My staff, actually, outside of tax season, they only are required to be here Monday through Thursday. And if they work from home or they have certain stuff, as long as the clients have the work they need or they tag me in, I am okay with that, because I don't feel like people have to be 40 hours a week for things to work. I think that during we're busy all year with some slow kind of periods, but most of the time we're pretty busy. But I work with people who I trust explicitly, whom my clients love and who know what's expected, and they take it seriously and they respect me, and there's mutual respect back. And so I don't have to be breathing over and micromanaging. I do my check-ins, whatever. But I think a lot of what people don't want to do, because it seems overwhelming, because people say, I just want to do this thing. I just want to be an architect. I just want to coach people. I just want to do returns. But the only way that you were able to continue to do all those things that you really love is to find like an enjoyment in it and just be like, this is part of it. I've tried to reframe the way I think, and I've heard both of you talk about reframing the way you think in terms of fitness, which is, it is a privilege to move my body. And I think I've realized more than ever with all of the things that surrounding Medicare and Medicaid, and I've seen this firsthand with, my husband when he got diagnosed with lymphoma in 2022, is that our bodies can fail. Anyone is 1 second away from having something go wrong, and you are not able to physically operate at whatever you were doing before. So when I don't want to do dead bugs because I hate that movement, but it's actually really useful, and I hate doing hip thrusts and whatever, but I'm like, oh, look what it's doing to my butt, this is great. I try to think of myself and I'm like, it's a privilege to move this way, it's a privilege to move my body. And I think that can also be applied to the business side of anyone of anyone's life, which is it's a privilege to be able to do this, to be able to do my books and see where I'm at financially and make decisions for myself based on that, because others don't get to do that, but I'm getting to. And so think like reframing the way you think, which is I've heard both of you, I follow both of you on social media. And I think a lot of what you post, other than the weird shit that just the blip on Justin that didn't make any sense and was very not him, your core ethos is, it's a privilege to be able to do this. And we have to think of our bodies as that way too. And you can apply the same thing. So maybe it's it's a mindset thing. And if my therapist is like, let's talk about reframing our mindset. I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to think like that. And so you do have to kind of trick yourself into thinking about it like that. It's a privilege for you to be able to do this because you are going to be able to realize this dream of opening up a brick and mortar, train people, change people's lives in that way. Because you really are, when someone gets to move or they see changes in their body or they feel more confident, that's life changing. It's life changing for me. And I haven't talked to one other person who isn't able to do something new. Or I see my kid who he's big and he's tall and, he's 4'11", almost 5 foot, and he's not even 10, right? And he's a big kid. And so when I see him master a new movement, he's so proud and he has such confidence from that. And so it's kind of the same thing. You can be like, wow, look at me, I'm doing this and I'm doing all these under things, these like background things are going to allow me to help all these people and, go about changing lives, we'll say.
I love that. I love the idea of looking at all the stuff that goes into a business, especially your own business, and the challenging stuff and the uncomfortable stuff and the stuff that feels like it's kind of the long way around. And do I really need to do this? Do I need a flipping business insurance and a business attorney and an accountant but that's actually doing it, quote unquote, the right way and is going to actually get you where you want to go, as opposed to, I know Weezy, you and I have talked about this a lot, all the shortcuts in fitness are actually the longest way around because they don't actually take you where you want to go. They bounce you in some other direction.
Yep.
And they end up hurting more than the quote unquote long, boring, challenging way that actually pays off in the way you want it to.
Yeah.
This is a helpful reframe. When I'm paying for janitorial, I'll say it's a privilege to pay for janitorial.
And who really taught me about that? I have a client who has a really successful studio in Philadelphia. The way that she trains and the things that she offers and the people that she brings in are very interesting. And it's funny, I don't even realize all the clients who go to her. And funny enough, we figured out that she actually went to the same high school as my husband. And my husband was like, yeah, I know her. And I was like, well, why would I know that? Like, you had never mentioned it. And so the way that she really started talking about it, like, there are certain things she's like, she said to me, it's a privilege to look at your bill and understand what time I am asking for and all the things that I've needed throughout the month and to make sure and so she said that to me and I was like, oh, like that's a pretty neat way to think about it. And the way she and her husband think about their businesses and their lives is very smart, but it's also kind of that that new, I'm going to have a new mindset about it, which I think both of you tend to do as well. So, sometimes we just have to kind of lie to ourselves and be like, I love doing this. This is great. And it's like, eventually if you say it to yourself enough, you will believe it and or it just becomes such an ingrained part of your routine that you're like, all right, well, this is just what it is.
But I think this is very useful because I know I have the experience all the time where and you mentioned this with accounting, your own bookkeeping a second ago. I'm pretty good helping other people. I fall down constantly trying to monitor my own stuff. Like I am the worst at helping myself. With that in mind, are there things that Wheezy should definitely not do or look out for, or in this exciting transition period where there's a lot of moving pieces? Is there something that comes to mind that you can be like, I sure hope Wheezy doesn't try and do this?
I sure hope that you don't make a partnership with someone before you. And what I mean by partnership is not bring them in as part of your business, but as a partnership for an employee or a subcontractor, someone who's going to work in your business, without taking that step of fleshing out exactly what your requirements, your requests, what your non-negotiables are for them working with you and understanding what theirs are too. Because you might have very reasonable things. And then when you say, can you run me through what you think it will be or what it looks like to you to do these things for my business? And then they come out of left field and you're like, oh my gosh, I thought we were on the same page and we do not have the same expectations. And it can be even as much as, okay, you're a subcontractor. They say, well, I expect you to cover my insurance, that I expect to be reimbursed for this, or I expect to be reimbursed for my travel or whatever it is. And you're like, oh, wait, well, that's not what I was saying. That's on you. You know, it's things like that about what are the expectations, flushing all of that out ahead of time. And then just putting it in writing and not being afraid to have those conversations, which sometimes are uncomfortable, especially from a woman-owned business. And I've had clients who are male who feel this way too, but a lot of it is like, oh, I shouldn't ask for these things. I shouldn't be too much. I shouldn't be pushing, or really being like, I need everything I need everything written out. I need everything documented, because we don't want to be seen as too much or what have you. And a lot of times that winds up being to our detriment, not the other person's. We wind up being put out and expending time and energy that we really don't have, that we could have been using to make money or grow our business or do a million other things, or even spend time with our kids and our families and prioritize that to fix, because we were just a little too, we felt like we shouldn't flush those things out, or we didn't feel like we were allowed to, but we are allowed to. Everyone is allowed to, and everyone should.
That's helpful. That's really helpful to think about. As I'm thinking about those kind of non-negotiables, is that something that you would recommend having an attorney as a part of? Or is that like, hey, here's my list of things, basically?
I would say that it's kind of twofold, because I think that those things should be documented and solidified in whatever employment agreement, contractor agreement that you are signing with people. So eventually, yes. But I don't know necessarily that you need to run those past. Now, there's certain things that people might want that are protected. Like, you can't tell someone how to do their hair. You can't, there's certain things that
Right.
you can't, you have to be very careful of how you talk to people about their bodies. And there's lots of things where we have to, it's like gray areas. A lot of what I also wind up doing and coaching people on, in a way, is, or helping business owners, is, how do I talk to my employee about this thing? Now, if sometimes it's as simple as, this person is not, they're not coming with good hygiene and I'm worried about them. So we talk about, how do we frame that conversation and who do we have as part of that conversation? Because you don't want to put anyone on the defensive and you don't know what someone is going through, or sometimes people don't realize it. So there's stuff like that which can get into gray area. And a lot of times people will be like, can I ask someone to do this? And I'll sometimes say, hey, that's like a no-no. Like, here's the Department of Labor website, which absolutely tells you that. But also sometimes I say, you know what? Who's your employment? Who's your, general business lawyer? Like, I would just float this to them and say, can this be part of a contract? Because sometimes it's like with the non-compete, those are by and large, like, you can't tell someone that they can't earn a living, but you can tell someone you can write it in there that they can't take your intellectual property or how you do things, or they can't contact client. There's like certain things that you can and can't do depending on the state. And that's stuff where you just want to make sure that it's legal and you're all good on that front. But I think you do need to engage with an attorney to solidify the agreement. And in that agreement, it needs to have your understanding of how you're going to work together. Like, in my agreement, which was written by a prior attorney, it says, I expect you to give me the information. It says, I'm not your mother. If you read my engagement letter, it says, we're not your mother. And if you don't tell us about an issue, or you don't give us the information, it doesn't magically come to us. So we can't do anything, but we are happy to step in and help as long as you communicate effectively with us. But you cannot expect us to chase you around. Though I kind of do wind up chasing around clients. It's like herding cats, because people are avoidant and they don't want to do it. So it's fine.
For anybody listening, Justin and I both left the camera.
Mhm.
Just
And that's I'm okay with emailing people and saying, hey, let's check in, because honestly, it saves me the agita later of when I say, hey, guess what you owe? And you're like, well, why didn't you tell me sooner? And I'm like, well, you didn't communicate with me. But if I can say, hey, I did email you, and some people basically say, fuck you, I'll talk to you once a year. And I say, totally understand. Like, that's totally fine. But I'm letting you know this is what can happen if that does happen. So, but for you, I think figuring out, here is my expectations, here is my absolute negotiables, and then asking the other person who you're engaging with the same, and then coming to an agreement that this is what you're comfortable with and this is how you're going to move forward, and then memorializing that in an agreement of some sort so you are on the same page and it's binding and protects you and protects them. Because they might say, hey, I want to be able to do work with other people outside of your business. And you're like, oh, wait, I don't want you selling or doing stuff for others. And so those are all things that can be talked about and should be fleshed out. Things that we don't think about because we're like, they want to work with us. They're only going to work with us. Well, what happens if they start moonlighting and it's not during your business hours, but it's on their own? And you're like, oh shit, I didn't think about that. Or, oh, that's going to affect my business in some way. So those are things to kind of think about.
That's helpful.
Those are
That's
big
really
ones.
helpful.
I've had a decent amount of success, like really clearly drawing the line, talking to people. Like I'll put my hat on. I'll be like, oh, I got to put my like boss finance hat on. Is that okay for a second? And just like literally like, okay, it's like, okay, good. This money happened, this money happened, this money happened, this money happened. And like, that's where the conversation is. And, or when you have professionals in your network, like Allie and my business insurance people who Allie also recommended, and I think is like your aunt or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
That's the thing. People are like, how do you know her? And I was like, I don't get any referral fees from anyone that I refer to, which people are like, that's stupid. But I also think it lends like, these are good people and everyone loves Maureen Kazempa. Like there's not one person who doesn't love Maureen because she's really great.
But it also lets me say, when I have this, big long contract and waiver people sign, someone will say, does this part need to be in here? And I get to say, the insurance people said I have to have this in here. So if we work together, it has to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of the conversation. They say, oh, okay. Because this is a company and I'm a nice guy and I can be your friend over here, but the business has to be protected. So the business does business stuff.
So not Next Insurance.
No. When you told me that, I was like,
okay, great.
It's hard because insurance is so important. And like, I realized like my grandfather was overinsured in some ways and underinsured in others, which was a very interesting experience. Is like when I came up here to run his practice because he was sick and taking on not only a caretaker role, but also stepping back into clients I had known. Some of these clients I've known my entire life. They have pictures of me with my grandfather when I am a baby at their places of business when they had brick and mortars before they sold it or what have you. And it's definitely been interesting to kind of code switch with some of those clients and also realize like what I have to do to write things that my grandfather did. Also, like insurance, like I was like, oh, Maureen was like, I don't know why you're overinsured in this way and why you have no insurance in this sector. And so like I had people calling me out too, and I have to check myself in that way too. So a lot of it is like oh, I didn't realize that I was deficient in these areas. And it was just based on the fact that I didn't know any better. And I'm trusting this individual to help me get right in that area.
I have a list of tasks. And on it is contact Maureen.
Maureen's wonderful.
Yeah. Same with the attorneys that I send or the financial planners that I send. Because sometimes people go, you gave me this person and we did not vibe at all. And I'm like, totally understand. Like I had someone contact me who said, your name got floated to me because they said that you can do, and it was basically financial planning. I want to know how to invest my money, which I don't do. And I can't tell you. Actually, this is the one least feminist thing about me. Money, because I have such a weird childhood trauma from it, and because I had so little of it, and I was food insecure as a kid, and that was by design based on who I lived with at the time and having money taken away from me. I've worked almost full time since I was 13. My first job was when I was 12 under the table, and then as soon as I turned 13 I get my work permit. I did, and I've been working ever since. I I cannot deal with our investments. So it's something that my husband does. He was like, he's like, the stock market is going to go up and down. I'm going to take this off of your phone because it is literally giving you an anxiety attack every time. And you just need to know it's long term. Like, I'll come back and I'll be like, I think we should sell everything. And he's like, what are you talking about? Absolutely not. And this is what his background is in. He was in actuarial science. He does regulatory work. He's done, Basel regulatory work. He's worked with banks. He works at a bank now. And so I have to be like, I know enough to know I don't know enough. And this, I can't lead in a way that doesn't make me feel freaked out. So I need to take a step back.
I think it's really good to recognize those parts of you. And Rebecca and I go back and forth with some of that stuff too. We're like, this isn't chink in my armor. Can you take this one? Because I shouldn't actually be handling this part, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. That's what any good partnership does, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a work relationship. It's knowing I can't do it all. And funny enough, the only reason that I hired Rosie, who is my other accountant, is because I was having, very honestly, a really bad time mentally. And I was like, oh, I think it would be better if I went and walked into traffic. And that was something that I've dealt with. And I was very lucky to have not only a very supportive partner, a very supportive best friends who were there for me the entire time, a really amazing therapist, but also a client as a treat had gotten me a tarot reading with someone who's a client now, and she's very talented. And I understand that not everyone, that doesn't vibe with everyone, but she said to me, I didn't bring any of this to her. And she gave me a lot of good feedback. And she said, I know that she said, the cards are showing me that you're trying to make a choice about bringing someone into your business, right? And I was like, and Bakara is incredible. Like, anyone I send her, they're like, oh my God, she knows everything. And she's just very intuitive and knows her shit. She's amazing. And she said, you need to let someone in and you need to rely on on the other person. And the person who you hire is going to be great. And it wound up being Rosie, and she's wonderful. And she was like, you need to let this part of this go because I know that you're on the precipice of like, what do I do? But she was like, she was the one, and I was like so shocked by it. I was like, and I put up an ad, and Rosie responded that day. And Rosie was someone who I'd worked with before, but she was working at a big firm and they treated her awfully and they did some really fucked up shit and just were really mean and just things that are like yucky and gross. And she was like, I would love to come work for you. And it just all fell into place. And things haven't always been perfect. And sometimes we have to kind of like recalibrate to be like, hey, our expectations are not aligning, but it has always been really good. But part of that was because I was not in a good way mentally. And my client she was like, I feel like you're struggling. Here is a tarot reading with Bakara from Everyday Magic. And so so sometimes it just all happens in a weird way, but you do have to listen, and that partnership has been really important for me, having someone else that I can give business to, give work to, that higher level work of preparing returns, because my bookkeeper and office manager, she's an amazing bookkeeper and she's a badass, but she doesn't do tax returns and she has no interest in learning, which is totally fine. And I knew that I couldn't sustain or support everything just on my own. So I had to bring in someone else.
That sums up a lot of what I'm feeling at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I really relate to that. Thanks for sharing.
I was going to say, I feel like I've heard this story recently.
Yeah. You can't do everything. You have 2 kids, you have a husband, you have this business, and you just said in the beginning of this, you have 3 calls now that you're like, where do I put these people? There's only so much time in the day, and no one wants to program at 11 p.m. at night. And I also need to sleep and prioritize my own health. So,
right. Yeah, I know what a full book of business is for myself, and I am dangerously above that. So it's time.
It is time.
It is time.
Which is important to recognize, right?
Yeah, I wish that I would have seen the writing on the wall 6 months ago. But, the next best time is right now.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. And I think this also lends into the entrepreneurial spirit. You can beat yourself up no one is a worse critic or meaner than yourself to yourself. I say some stuff to myself that I would never let my clients or my best friends say to themselves. And my best friend Jess will say to me, hey, what would you say to me if I were in that situation? Because you would not be that mean to yourself and you would not talk about yourself in this way. And because if you were me, you wouldn't let me talk to myself this way and you wouldn't talk to me. So I need you to talk to yourself like you're your own best friend. And some of it is saying, I didn't have the tools that I needed at the time to make the best decision, but now I have them. So I'm going to write and do what's best for myself by making that better decision now. And that is okay. It's kind of like the Richard Smile. It's like the, by golly, people like me. You just kind of have that, that can do like, yes, by golly, and everyone likes me attitude about yourself.
That's a mic drop.
Yeah, I completely agree. Should we do a segment?
Yeah, let's do a segment. Are there going to be sound effects? Because
There
that
are
was
no
very
sound
jarring.
effects.
Okay, good.
There was on a previous episode, there was a quiz, and I asked Wheezy the question and then introduced a very loud clock ticking sound effect that stressed her out terribly. And I thought was extremely funny because of that.
You're like a mean older brother sometimes, Justin.
I mean, I am in fact an older brother. I would push back against the mean.
Not so bad, but yes.
So I have a quiz. I thought this would be fun. We might end up cutting this. You are two of I like talking to both of you a lot. I found you lots of fun. So this quiz, I've titled it Dick's Sporting Goods. You're going to buzz in using your name. I'm going to give you some brand names. It is either a piece of fitness equipment or a sex toy.
Okay. Oh yeah. Let's go.
So again, you're going to buzz in using your name.
What do you
call
mean?
on
Like Wheezy.
So
Yeah.
exactly.
Ellen.
If you say it. You get a point for everyone you get right. You lose a point for everyone you get
Oh
wrong.
no.
Okay.
I mean, make my little scorecard.
Justin, who some of my clients are. So if I do not do well at this, I should be shamed by those clients. And especially because my office is in what was a prior sex shop. So if I do not keep the spirit of that alive, I'll be very disappointed in myself.
So you're going to just
I'm
read
going to
the
give you the
brand
brand
name.
name.
Okay.
The brand name. That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
And
All right.
the option is sex toy or not.
What should we say? Say sex or fitness. So it's either a piece of fitness equipment or a sex toy. And sex toy is kind of a broad. It's an adult sex product.
Okay.
Ditto with fitness. It's something to do with fitness.
Oh,
Great.
I don't know if I would know the names of the companies, but you know what? I'm going to try my hardest.
That's
Let's
all
go.
we can ask. Insert
Okay.
your jokes here. Number 1, the Emax Superquake. Max is spelled MAXX, if that helps.
Fitness.
Wheezy.
I'm
you
gotta
did
play
it
by
right.
the rules.
Yeah,
Wheezy
no,
buzzed
it's
in.
fine.
Go ahead, Wheezy.
Fitness.
It's correct. It is basically what you might know as an earthquake bar.
Oh.
The Palm Power.
Allie.
Allie?
Sex toy.
That's correct.
Palm Power.
Mm-hmm. The Double Black Diamond Extreme.
Wheezy.
I heard Allie.
Fitness.
That's correct. It's a very aggressively knurled barbell.
Wow.
The Unbound Bender.
Wheezy.
Go ahead.
Sex.
That's correct. We have the Power Rider.
Allie.
Allie.
Fitness.
That is correct. It is that's from an infomercial. That's like an exercise bike that you bounce up and down on.
Uh-huh.
It kind of straddled the line. It's a little shake weighty, but it is.
Listen, there are
marketed-
reason that women like that because you've seen them do certain thing, and you're like, oh, this isn't just a fitness thing. But yes, yeah, I'm sure you guys have stories.
The soft pink squeeze egg.
Wheezy.
Go ahead.
Fitness.
That is correct. It's a compression device.
I would have guessed it was a grip trainer.
Fair.
I honestly thought it would be something that you would use for like pelvic floor therapy. So maybe
Ooh.
something is, I don't know.
The firm sculpting stick.
Wheezy.
Go ahead.
Fitness.
Also correct. Mobility
Love
tool.
it. Love it. Love it.
The magic ring. Pardon me, the magic circle.
Wheezy.
Go ahead.
Fitness. This is like a Pilates thing.
It is a Pilates thing.
Yeah.
The power tower.
Wheezy.
Go ahead.
Sex.
It's correct.
Wow.
The power ring.
Allie.
Go ahead.
Sex.
Also correct. We have there's only a few left. The gazelle.
Wheezy.
Yes.
Sex.
Sorry, no.
What? What is it?
It's a gliding leg machine.
Yeah, it's a glider where you're like, you're going, your arms are going a one way. Yeah. Okay.
We have the stretch flex trainer.
Allie. Fitness.
Sorry, no. That is a male sex toy. Stretch flex trainer. I think for endurance, generally. Let's call it endurance.
Is it like an auto masturbator? I'm trying to figure it out. I'm gonna have to search some of this stuff. No, I'm trying to figure like what do you
That's made by Doc Johnson Company if you want to look it up later. The Stretch Flex Trainer by Doc Johnson. This is not officially sponsored, but Doc, reach out. We're open.
Doc Johnson. Wow.
Yep. The Vibro Disc.
Wheezy. This is
Go ahead.
fitness. It's like one of those vibrating plates.
It is.
Got it.
We have the Love Handle.
Allie. Sex toy.
I'm sorry, that's a resistance grip trainer for the gym.
What? Oh. All right.
Mhm. The Pulse Duo.
Wheezy.
Go ahead.
Sex.
Is correct. Final score: Wheezy 7, Allie 2.
Oh, damn. All right. It
No
happened.
way.
I got a couple wrong. It's all right. I will be okay losing to Wheezy. I'm okay doing that.
That's fair. I wasn't sure if she had an edge in this or not, but I thought it would be fun to do either way.
I mean, on the fitness perspective, certainly. And I don't want to comment on my sex life on our podcast.
Fair
So,
enough. Before we
was-
press the record button, you would not shut up, but yeah, we'll keep it up there. That's fine.
It's been great talking with both of you. I do have to run just because someone shadowboxed my window this morning and I have the glass people here to give me a quote. So I'm going to go deal with what every other Philadelphian deals with sometimes shit happens to the windows of your practice and you just got to deal with it. So it was really lovely talking to both of you. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. And thank you for listening to me just ramble on because I love to talk and I love that people are like, they're kind of a captive audience. So you gave me such joy today.
It was
Thank
an
you for-
absolute honor. You were the person we both said we wanted on first, so it was easy.
Thank you. I love that. And I can't wait to subscribe and do more. And hear more, not do more, but hear more from you guys.
Thank you very much. You can go run to your glass people.
Okay. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, Allie. Team, this has been Training Partners. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope that you found some value and maybe a laugh in the segment that may or may not have gotten cut. We'll catch you next time.
Here come your training partners, so smart, so strong, so funny. Let's go with your training partners. We're ready to shine together.